Gamers, we're back with the last video of this series, which is me giving honest opinion about the new civilizations, of course. So we're doing Tughlaq Dynasty now. I have done the other three: Sengoku, Daimyo, Macedonian Dynasty, and the Golden Horde. This civ is very interesting, and I would say it's the most unique out of the civs, the way it plays. I don't really know if this civ will ever be balanced due to a couple of things that I'm gonna mention later. Like, I feel like it's always gonna be either kind of bad or really, really good. So let's talk about the landmarks first, then we're gonna talk about the playstyles, OP units, economic bonuses, and so on and so forth. So the first landmarks that we have right now are Tower of Victory and Dome of the Faith. Depending when you're watching this video, maybe in the future these landmarks are going to be like changed or nerfed or buffed, but right now Tower of Victory is just not used at all. It sounds good, but it's very similar to the Delhi Tower of Victory, where it's like, oh, you get attack speed on your infantry, and this one you get it on your elephants, but you get it only for basically ballista elephants, horsemen, raider elephants, and then war elephants. So you don't have a ranged elephant. Obviously you have healer elephants as well, but it just, attack speed on melee units is not that great in my opinion. So right now Tower of Victory is basically not used at all, maybe like in FFAs or something. And Dome of the Faith is the meta. So if you don't know, Dome of the Faith, right now it's 17th of November when I'm recording this. You can produce healer elephants, which to me kind of seems like they're a castle age unit, and you can make them in feudal, right? Because the stats that they have like 450 HP, they heal a shit ton. A lot of people are complaining about these elephants, whether in team games or in 1v1s. And I would say this landmark and the healer elephants are probably the best thing that Tughlaq Dynasty has going for them. I cannot imagine the healer elephants are going to remain the way they are. I would assume they're going to get a nerf just because just the sheer stats they have is batshit insane. But the issue is, while those elephants are completely broken in feudal, I feel like the rest of the civ is not that great compared to, like, if you nerf something for Sengoku, they're still fine. So I kind of fear that Tughlaq might need something else to help it out a little bit, right? That's for Feudal Age. Dome of the Faith is just a go-to, and you make healer elephants. No matter what you do, you kind of want to make them, right? Now, going into Castle, you have House of Learning, and you have the other landmark that I can't remember the name of. So House of Learning has 5 unique upgrades, and I'm going to try to remember them from the top of my head. One is your elephants move 10% faster. One gives your elephants bonus damage increase, and one, I think, heals your elephants or something like that. And then you have the upgrade that makes your spearmen train way faster and increase their damage against cavalry, which is very strong upgrade. And then you have the men-at-arm upgrade, which initially I thought is really strong, but it's for men-at-arms where their charge attacks do 100% more damage. It's good, but it's not, you know. So a bit disappointing in my opinion in House of Learning, because the upgrades that they do have, you know, Tughlaq being the elephant civilization, the elephant upgrades are kind of ass, is what I'm trying to say. Then you have Compound on the Defender, which reduces the, we can see it right here, it reduces stone cost of buildings by 20% and unlocks an additional upgrade to each Tughlaq fort, which further enhances health and governor benefits. So I would say neither of these are great in my opinion. Right now, this one is used more, even though I don't think it's that great. The reason it's used more is because the infantry upgrades are very good, and you can kind of get a very fast payoff on the landmark. Whenever you play AOE4, whenever you're getting landmarks, at the high level at least, you usually go for landmarks that can give you some kind of instant value, right? Instant economy bonus, instant units, some upgrades will benefit you greatly immediately. The problem with House of Learning, even though the other upgrades aren't great, the Spearmen Men-at-Arms are great, and you can research them in 5 seconds. On the other side, Compound, even though I think it's a better landmark, the problem is this takes so long to kick in, because this assumes, right, that you actually are going to be building forts. It also assumes that you're going to get a fort to level 4. So you need to, in order to have a use from this, you need to A, mine stone, build a fort, then upgrade it 3 times to be able to upgrade it all the way to the end, right? So it does not give you instant payoff, and it takes it's like a long investment, which is pretty much the same reason why Delhi also doesn't go for compound anymore, and instead Delhi goes for House of Learning, because you can get a lot of upgrades that can benefit you a lot sooner. I feel like neither of these landmarks are great, but you know, it is what it is. And then in Imperial Age, which I can't remember from the top of my head, we have the madrasa, right? That gives you, I think, 50 food and 50 gold per governor. Someone can correct me in the chat. Again, this landmark is pretty bad comparing it to other Imperial landmarks in the game. Why? Well, in order to get 300 food and 300 gold per minute, you need to have 6 forts, 6 governors active, which is like, you might not have it at the stage of reaching Imperial. So once again, you do not get instant reward by aging up. You kind of just have to wait a long time to get that. And then you have Palace of the Sultan. Thank you, by the way, Slardar, I appreciate it. Which is immediately grants a governor of choice with a tier 4 bonus. At the pro level, once again, in my opinion, this one is going to be used and is used more because it doesn't do anything else, but at least you get a tier 4 governor upgraded immediately there. So you can instantly get whatever you need, whether that's the religious one or the food one or whichever one. So I would say Tughlaq Dynasty regarding landmarks is pretty underwhelming in my opinion. Probably got the shortest end of the stick out of maybe even all civilizations in the game, because, you know, there's some civilizations that have these like slow landmarks, but then, you know, in Castle Age, but then both of their landmarks in Imperial are either fast landmarks where you get instant value, or they're keeps or something like that. Whereas I feel like Tughlaq Dynasty, even Tower of Victory, is not instant value. 15% attack speed on 1 elephant or 2 elephants is not very good. You need to have a big, massive elephants, and you're never gonna have like 30, 40 elephants anytime soon. I feel like it's a civ that's like very long-term kind of looking, and the problem is you're kind of playing without landmarks for after like 10 minutes after you build them, right? So you're just playing without a landmark kind of thing until you start to get benefits from its bonus or from the landmark itself or whatever else. So I think landmarks are pretty ass, but Dome of the Faith is obviously good. But like I said, if healer elephants get nerfed, I'm kind of worried about the civilization because I think it's very, very slow. Now, the one thing that I will say, considering we covered the landmarks, let's talk about their units and we'll talk about their playstyles. So Raider elephants, I think, need a buff. They are pretty bad, in my opinion. Early on, they're quite decent. Like if you have 1 Raider elephant or 2 versus, you know, a couple of archers and knights or a couple of archers and spearmen, they're quite nice. But they become very clunky to use. You can't raid with them because they're super slow compared to the other horsemen, and you don't have a horseman as a civilization. Their usability, I thought would be amazing. But when you activate it for Raider elephants, they take like a charge up for 1 second. And by the time they do the whole charge up thing, the opponent can just move away. Like literally. And you can't catch up to them. So that was pretty disappointing. They have ballista elephants, which, I mean, they're cool. They're, you know, Pringles, right? They're nice, I guess. You can heal them. Cool. They're not OP, they're not bad either. And then you have the healer elephants, which, like I said, are obviously probably the most OP unit that you can make with resources out of the 4 new civs that came out because of the time where you're getting it. You're getting it early feudal, and there's not enough DPS in the opponent's army to actually kill it, right? So even though we're watching here getting surrounded by spearmen and getting killed, but you know, I kind of rushed castle with no units. And I think that's it, right? They don't have more unique units. Oh, they do have Worker Elephant, which I guess is not a fighting unit, but it's a unit. Now, Worker Elephant is an interesting mechanic. It basically puts all their resources on KT gathering wood level, and we all know how good KT is on water because they don't need to build lumber camps, they don't need to walk back to drop off, they're just constantly gathering extremely efficiently. And another thing that is very important regarding their economy is this upgrade where they don't have horticulture, mining specialization, and double broadaxe. They have this upgrade where It increases resource gather rate by 5%, and then bonus resources dropped off on your worker elephants is also increased by 5% with each upgrade. That's kind of just their way to balance out the economy because, you know, just how the civilization works, and obviously the upgrade is more expensive than horticulture wheelbarrow. Now, another important thing about this civilization, all the upgrades finish in 5 seconds, which is actually extremely strong. So I knew this would be strong because, you know, upgrades finishing in 5 seconds, that sounds pretty good. It is very, very strong. If you're, for example, fighting in Feudal Age and you have like 30 archers and 10 spearmen or something, and you age up, usually civilizations need to run back home, so they, you know, they wait a minute for their veteran upgrade to kick in, or +2 ranged attack or whatever. But with Tughlaq Dynasty, you can literally be fighting, you age up, and you immediately get veteran archer upgrade. It's done in 5 seconds, you're gonna end the game. So these kinds of timings are extremely strong, and I've already seen some pro games where they're like game ending. If you get any kind of lead and you manage to age up, you can upgrade your units like that, and you just get a massive kind of advantage over your opponent upgrade-wise. So that part about the civ is very, very strong. In a way, the civilization, in a weird way, Tughlaq Dynasty kind of needs to suck a bit because that upgrade thing is way too strong. And if they were on par with the other civs in terms of eco and military, the civ would be completely broken. That's something that, this is why I said I think it's going to be very hard to balance Tughlaq Dynasty long term, because there's some things that are pretty bad and some things that are completely broken. So, talking about resource gathering, Tughlaq Dynasty at the pro level is actually being used, I'm not going to say exclusively, but I would say about 80% of the games that I have seen were on actually hybrid maps. And the reason for that is pretty obvious, but I'll say it. The same reason why KT was so dominating on water is because they gathered faster wood. Tughlaq doesn't gather faster, but they have the worker elephants, which means you don't have to build lumber camps, which means you're chopping wood super efficiently, and it makes transitions super smooth from fishing to ground or whatever else you need. So they've been used quite a lot on hybrid maps, as well as their fishing ships are shooting, just like Delhi. And then once you age up, you can go into healer elephants, and with water economy, you can kind of, you know, push and do a lot of damage, and it becomes very hard for your opponent to deal with it, especially if they also need to fight on water, because they need to invest way more resources into defeating healer elephants than you need to invest into making healer elephants and a couple of units, right? So they might, at the pro level, turn out to be a civ that you use on hybrid maps, or maybe even water maps in general, and not played much on land maps. Now, this is all me speculating, but I've seen it being played on like Relic River a lot, maps like Frisian Marches, so any type of hybrid where there's like some kind of fishing. In terms of playstyles, let's talk about that. I have tried a lot of different things with this civ. I have tried 1TC all-in push, which I made a guide for. I have tried 2TC. I've tried like 1TC 4 thrushes to see, like rushing in my base to kind of have it as like a second TC kind of thing. I've tried castle rushing. If you can get your eco up and going and you don't take damage, I think it's one of those things you can transition and you can defend. But again, having no horsemen feels very awkward. Healer elephants are very expensive. So if you're going 2TC, if you don't put 2TC, second TC on your gold, then you can't make healer elephants and you're just a crap civ, right? And then you can get gold for the upgrades, so it becomes really, really weird. I've seen a lot of people go for fast castle with Tughlaq Dynasty. They do like 1 or 2 healer elephants and they just use them to heal their unit or workers on gold, and they just age up into like knights or whatever. But I do think that probably the strongest style right now is either 1TC push or playing it on hybrid maps where they're the strongest. Now, forts, what do I think about them? Forts are very slow. Like, initially I thought the fort system is going to be great, because we all know how the Delhi keeps work, right? It's like if you get to castle and the game stabilizes, you can throw down like 3 keeps and suddenly they're town centers and you're producing workers and you're back into the game. Tughlaq about forts, I feel like they just take forever to like develop and to to do something, you know, which again comes down to you just need to mine so much stone, and then you need to build the forts. Then the forts are not actually that strong, like they're not like a keep. Even if you upgrade it, they're kind of ass until you upgrade them all the way. I feel like the opponent can punish you quite a bit until then. You also need to place, you can't just place the forts on big goals on the map and stuff like that. You kind of want to save the governors, right? So you're placing them defensively unless you're using the defensive fort for the Amir warriors. Yeah, I just feel like it's their coolest part about the Civ is this governor system. I just think it's a bit hard to transition into it successfully and not die or not lose the lead or not let your opponent do whatever they want. But at the same time, if you do manage to get all 6 governors up and you upgrade your forts, I mean, it's great, right? So yeah, it's kind of like a mixed bag in that sense. Other than that, I think in terms of difficulty, I don't think it's that difficult of a Civ. I would probably give it like a 1 star, maybe 1.5 star, because the fact that you don't have to build lumber camps, the fact that you can just shift queue with your workers and the worker elephants on resources, and they will just go together. The fact that worker elephants are following deer as you're killing them, or berries or wood, makes the civilization a lot easier to play. And you don't have to like hotkey upgrades like Delhi, or you know, do many upgrades at the same time like Delhi, comparing it to Delhi because it's the variant. Instead, it's like you need the upgrade, you click it and you get it immediately. So you don't really have to, you know, think about it too much. Also, the decision making of when to get which eco upgrade is not really there because there's only one that you need to get. I think they're pretty straightforward. And I think, like I said, the things that need nerfing, healer elephants probably are going to get nerfed. The raider elephants feel a bit underwhelming. And other than that, I think their landmarks probably could use some work. And out of all the civilizations that came out, I feel like Tughlaq Dynasty, the forts, the governor system, the worker elephants, all that is cool. But it kind of feels like when you're doing your fucking homework 5 minutes before the class and they were like, oh, just put this landmark and just give it this. I feel like not a lot of, maybe, not a lot of thinking, but not a lot of consideration that all the landmarks are super slow went into it when you compare it to some of the other civilizations that we just got. So I think their landmarks are probably the weakest point. Yeah, I think it's probably the coolest Civ, but maybe we didn't cook it enough. The whole civilization, like, kind of style is slow. You have keeps and forts, right? So you want to be slow. And Delhi has the same thing, right? But Delhi has Ghazi raiders, which they can raid with. And then you have raider elephants, which are very slow. So they're called raider elephants, but you don't raid with them. So what do I think about them at lower leagues and higher leagues? I think even if healer elephants get nerfed, they're probably still going to be used in team games because I think healer elephants are very easy to use and just good unit that provide a lot of healing for you and your ally. They're probably going to be used in FAs. They're probably going to use in 1v1's lower league. At the top level, it's very hard to say, but right now, whenever I encounter them at just like a dry Arabia, I feel like they're not that great. But when you play them on a hybrid map, it's like you're playing against a completely different Civ, very similar to KT. That's why I use that comparison. Because KT has always been used on hybrid maps and water maps at the top level, and then on land maps, they're pretty ass, although recently KT got some buffs, so we'll see. All in all, I think the Tughlaq Dynasty has a chance to turn into like a 2TC Fort Civ or just 2TC, or it's going to remain this kind of 1TC pressure type of civilization. But the big weakness comes from if you don't manage to find any damage, the opponent can kind of run circles around you and kill your workers and everything else while you can't raid them quite as well as they can. And that's pretty much it. I hope the devs look at the landmarks once again and give them some more instant value instead of just like long-term rewards on them. And overall, I think it's a really cool Civ. So just a bit undercooked. So if you're watching on YouTube, I want to thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. And if you're watching live, whether on Twitch or on YouTube, let's keep going.